an abbreviated version of our spring preview series tonight. We were going to double dip with the opposite ends of the 2024 Big Ten standing spectrum, but we had some pretty significant technical difficulties. So we were planning for tonight was to start with Oregon and have Dale Bliss from the Autzen Zoo join us once again to talk the Ducks, but we could not get Dale's audio going at all, could not hear him. So we're going to audible here, Clinton, and we're just talking about everyone's favorite topic, the Purdue Boilermakers.
The worst
That
team
was.
in the Big Ten from 2024.
Could you
What a way
sense
to
the
start.
Could you sense the sarcasm in my voice there?
Honestly, Ryan, I don't even know if Purdue fans are excited about this.
Oh yeah, I don't know, man. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good now that I'm not sitting on the toilet every 5 minutes like I was last
That's
week,
disgusting.
mostly on Thursday when I was taking the day off to enjoy March Madness. But here we are. I'm a little disappointed that we didn't get to have Dale, so we will record our shortest episode of all time tonight and roll on from there. Mr. Ryan, how are you?
Oh, I'm just peachy, man. I love dealing with tech support stuff because I truly don't know what I'm doing, and having to look at someone and say, I don't know what to tell you. Did you try blowing on it? Is probably not the best tech support option that can be offered. So we'll figure out a time to get Dale in. God willing, the tech gods will be on our side at some point. But yeah, we wanted to put something out a little bit tonight still, so we're gonna keep up with the Purdue talk for better or worse, mostly for worse.
Well, hopefully for them, it's for better.
It literally cannot be worse. It can't be worse. I mean, it can always be worse, but if it's, I don't want to see what worse from last year is.
I don't want to know.
If we're being completely honest. Why don't do you want to do the thing, and then we can do
Of course.
the talking of the thing that no one wants to hear about. Sorry,
Well,
Purdue fans.
you
Sorry.
were all patient enough to join us live tonight. And I'm sure there's a whole whopping 1, 2, 3 people who will do this live versus probably the 50 to so that we had that Dale was kind enough to repost this to watch us for Oregon tonight. If you're following us live, you are on YouTube right now. If you are not, you can check us out, ITP CFB, on the YouTube channel. You can do three things over there: hit like, subscribe to us, and leave us a comment, as that helps us get rolling in the algorithm. You can also check us out on the social media platforms of Twitter/X and Instagram, ITPCFB. And then you can also check us out on your preferred or favorite podcast platforms and search Inside the Pylon Midwest College Football Podcast. Don't forget to give us a follow and hopefully a 5-star review on there. Although you can leave this one maybe a 1 star, 'cause that's about what Purdue's going to give you. Um, leave us a review on there to help us grow the show.
You're kind of wind tunnely again.
Am I? My
Yeah,
bad.
yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I think it was partially. It was mostly good.
This whole thing is effed up tonight.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Is there like a solar storm or some shit going on?
This is Riverside's fault.
I'm literally tweeting at them right now. I'm putting them on blast on the Twitter.
No excuses.
They're
Better
gonna.
now?
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
Okay.
That sounds really good. So I think well, there's a couple big stories around Purdue, and I get big as a relative term because it's Purdue. I need to be nicer to Purdue. Their fans don't deserve this. They listen.
They were really nice to us when we went there last year.
I had a great time in West Lafayette, and that stadium was rocking for far longer than it had any business rocking for because that team stunk last year, and the fans still showed out on a Friday night. The student section was packed, and the team didn't really do a whole lot for them, and that was kind of the the theme of the year. Clinton is they started 1-0, and everyone's sitting there thinking, "Oh wow, is Purdue going to do something this year?" Completely devoid of the context that they played a really bad Indiana State team, and then they lost every other game they played. They finished 1-11. They fired Ryan Walters, head coach, after 2 seasons, and they are reviving Barry Odom's Power Four head coaching career. Barry Odom, most recently of the UNLV Runnin' Rebels, he had a pretty nice run over 2 years there. I think first year they finished tied for first in the Mountain West. And this past year, they were participants in the Mountain West Conference Championship game, losing to Boise State. He had a 19-8 record over 2 seasons. This follows a head coaching career at the University of Missouri that was quite literally average, Clinton. He finished 25 and 25 over 4 seasons. He was the DC there before getting promoted before the 2016 season. Got fired after the 2019 season when his team went 6-6, including 3-5 in the SEC. His tenure between the two programs there, he was the defensive coordinator at Arkansas, where he had a pretty good run there, I would say. Very fascinating hire. I think he did pretty well in the portal at UNLV. And I think that's going to be key for the Boilermakers to have any sort of success in 2025, because for the second straight offseason, man, anyone worth a damn on the roster, it seems, is going to be playing football elsewhere in 2025.
Yeah, we'll get to that in just a second. More on Odom. He helped the Rebels reach double-digit wins for only the third time in team history. That's pretty crazy. And then they achieved a program best number 19 ranking in both the AP and the coaches poll this past year. And did they ever crack? I didn't see this. Oh yeah, they did. Their first ever CFP ranking this past year. So
Yep.
Pretty damn good for the UNLV running Rebels. The biggest thing I kind of looked at with Odom, obviously bringing some new life to a program that has been knocked onto the mat, and the success that Purdue's had in the past. And this just isn't, a stint in the Big Ten Championship. This is Kyle Orton. This is Drew Brees. These are Ryan Kerrigan. I mean, we were in that, what was the restaurant we went into that has all the little, was it Triple X? Is that what it was?
Yeah, I think it was Triple X.
Triple X. With all the little meals named after all the great players that Purdue has had in football. They have a football history there. It's just when Jeff Brom left, it kind of flushed down the toilet. So my biggest question was, and get your thoughts on this, can Odom have a similar success as Jeff Brom here? Can he just make Purdue competitive? And is that what you're kind of looking for year one? Like, are you trying to stretch for bowl eligibility? Are you just trying to be competitive in games and win more than one game? Like, kind of what do you think the thought is here?
This is going to be tough because it's this thing that we've had this conversation about with most notably Wisconsin, but all these old Big Ten West teams, it's so hard to figure out what the expectation moving forward in this new look Big Ten is, because you can't rely on your conference schedule being just these sort of similar like-minded teams where it's, we're playing old school Big Ten football. We're going to pound the rock. We know we might not have as much talent as you, but we're going to work harder than you. We're going to out-physical you. And when you're in a game like that, it's quite literally the team that executes better in the moment that's going to come out on top. And I think, not that, Jeff Brom is an offensive mastermind, right? Like, if we're talking about the best offensive coaches in college football in 2025, his name has to be somewhere in the top 10 to 15, right? Like, there's not too many guys that you can, at least in terms of head coaches. Like, I'm not going to get in the weeds of this up and coming OC at Texas State or whatever. Like, come on, I don't have that bandwidth in my brain to figure that one out. But just among head coaches, he is one of the preeminent offensive masterminds. And I mean, Purdue really benefited from that with him. I mean, the run of quarterbacks that they had, I mean, we're not talking about all Big Ten caliber passers, but they had a good run of quarterback play. They had some big playmakers at wide receiver, and you have to get back to getting those guys on campus and keeping them on campus, because they've had those guys, Clinton. Why am I blanking on the kid's name now? Oh, Nick Scorton. He's going to be a first-round pick this year. They had him on their roster. Deion Burks was supposed to be a big playmaker for Oklahoma this year, and then he was hurt for almost the entire year. But it sounds like he's having a good spring for Oklahoma, and they're expecting him to be a big playmaker this year. It wouldn't shock me if we're talking about Max Clare at Ohio State as an All-American next year. And, I mean, he just had a fantastic year for them last year. I mean, 700 receiving yards on that offense. Really freaking good. I mean, Will Helt going to Clemson, would it surprise you if he was an All-ACC guy next year? It's just they've had players who are good, legitimate, NFL prospect players. But, in this era of the transfer portal, if you're that dysfunctional of a mess, you're not going to keep those guys around. So I feel like for Purdue this year, it has to start with like some semblance of, okay, we have adults in the room now, and they're running a tight ship. And I think with Barry Odom and the success that he had at UNLV, I think like that's a good place to start for them. It's still going to be a tough schedule this year. Like you get Notre Dame in the non-conference again.
We know
So,
how that went last year.
yep.
I think they're still running on Purdue. Actually,
I think Riley Leonard scored another rushing touchdown, and some walk-on just had another pick six, honestly.
oh my gosh.
But I mean, you look at their schedule to start the year. I mean, Ball State, you should beat Ball State. Southern Illinois, you should beat Southern Illinois. I don't even know what a Saluki is. The Southern Illinois Salukis.
Sounds like a sandwich.
I think it's a dog. It appears to be a dog based on this small thumbnail of a helmet I'm looking at.
Maybe it's a dog sandwich.
That's disgusting. But so after those two, you have USC. You host USC, which, I mean, you at least we know the whole thing that we made about the time zones last year. So, I mean, you have that to your advantage at least, but it's going to be a desperate USC team early in the season. Then the week after that, you're at Notre Dame. Then you're hosting Illinois. You're at Minnesota. You're at Northwestern, hosting Rutgers, at Michigan, hosting Ohio State, at Washington, hosting Indiana. Like, this is a tough schedule again, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're talking about from last year. Damn it, you're going to make me count here. We got 3 playoff teams from last year. You got a Michigan team that they had a down year last year, but they should be better this year. You got an Illinois team that's could potentially be ranked in the top 10 by the time that they play that game. So it's kind of the same story as this past year where, it wasn't a good Purdue team, but I mean, it certainly didn't help that they played Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon, Notre Dame, and Indiana. Like, that's a ridiculous run of teams that they had to play. So I think of it kind of like in a way that we had when we talked with Sammy about Indiana before last season. Like, I don't know. And maybe that's a little different because we kind of talked about that saying like, look, we think this team should be bowl eligible this year. And maybe I don't know that that's a realistic expectation for this Purdue team, but what we talked about with that is at least look like and play like and have like an idea by the end of the year that this is going in the right direction. Like, hey, you know what? Maybe we're losing, maybe we get our ass kicked by Notre Dame in week 4 because it's still early in the season. But, we played Michigan tough and we played Ohio State tough for a half and we gave Illinois a game, or, maybe we score an upset on one of those teams. And you're sitting there at the end of the year and you're thinking, maybe we went 3-9, but they definitely look better throughout the season. And that feels like the place it has to start for Purdue. Like, you've got to build a foundation here before you start worrying about renovating the kitchen.
Absolutely. I mean, we talked about Odom's career. He mixed bag at Mizzou, did really well at UNLV, which I guess would be viewed as a lesser program than Purdue given the status of conference difference. But at this point, to me, any momentum is positive momentum for them. And it's no knock on Ryan Walters, as we'll get to him when we talk more about him and we do the Washington spring preview, kind of back where he, I think, belongs now as a defensive coordinator. But Odom's got some proven success. Change, I think, in this case, is a good thing for them. It gives the fans something new to be excited about. It kind of, we'll get to him in just a second here, hinders the key losses that they had again for a second year. But this time, I looked through that transfer portal, and that was a big list of guys that rolled out, not just the key guys we're going to mention. And maybe they can stop the bleeding in that regards. And, Dub told us last year, we asked about Dylan Thieneman and NIL, and he said, don't worry, he's pretty well taken care of. I don't think he'd enter the portal. Well, whether Walters was there or not, I don't think Thieneman was staying one more year.
No, and
I think that time had come to an end. It was over.
Yeah, and that even feels like this is happening with Notre Dame basketball right now, where it's like, sure, your NIL is taking care of you, but also this program feels like a rudderless ship, and why am I going to waste what I think is going to be my last year in college going 2-10 when I can go somewhere else and compete?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you want to have a chance to win something. So, you look at it now. It's kind of the same thing with Ohio State's basketball program. Swing and miss on another year of March Madness, and no one notable to this point has taken off, but a few guys have left. So, I don't know, man. That's kind of where Purdue is for now. When the floor is the ceiling, it's only up from here, right? You can't get any worse. So, without further ado, let's stab them in the heart a little bit more and mention some key losses here. Ryan already mentioned two big ones. Tight end Max Clare is now at The Ohio State University, coming off a 51 catch, 685 yard, 4 TD season. He led the team in receptions, yards, and touchdowns. That is a tight end, guys. This is not Brock Bowers. No offense to Max Clare, but the next highest guy in receiving yards was another guy who entered the portal in Jamal Edrin, who went to UVA, Virginia, had 365 yards. Your leading wide receiver had 365 yards for your team, and he had 2 TDs, which
not good.
Is not good, right?
Not good.
He mentioned the stud edge Will Help. That's back-to-back years. We've seen a really good defensive end leave them. He's now at Clemson, where he's probably going to blow up. We're playing under Dabo on a team that's going to be pushing hot to be back in the playoff, competing for the ACC. As Ryan mentioned, we want to go somewhere and compete. 56 tackles, 10 TFLs, 5 sacks last year for Will Help. Then perhaps the biggest transfer that they lose is their star player, Dylan Thieneman, who is now an Oregon Duck. Nike intervened and paid that man his money. He went to Eugene, and word is he still hasn't left yet, Ryan. They just sent him his bags. 104 tackles last year. He had 106 in 2023. So if you do your math right, that's 210 tackles in 2 seasons, guys. Led the team back-to-back years. 5 TFLs and 7 passes defended. He also had, I believe, 2 years ago, 4 or 5 interceptions. I don't know what was going on last year, but pretty big interception year 2 years ago. And then their biggest guy that they're going to lose is going to the draft. Was their only player invited to the NFL Combine as tackle Marcus Mbao. He's the only, like I said, only Purdue player invited to the Combine. He started 30 games for them, only 6 in 2023 because of an injury, but that's a big piece if you're losing your star tackle. Looking over, though, Odom did a really nice job in bringing in some offensive linemen, at least to help fill some voids. So, Ryan, any thoughts, any other players you may think are key losses for this team before we kind of give a little light at the end of the tunnel on some key additions, key returns?
No, I think that's kind of the long and the short of it, man. There was not a lot to like about this team last year, but like we've been kind of talking about, pretty much all that there was is going to be playing elsewhere next year.
Root beer was good.
Root beer was very good. That was very good root beer.
Listen, Triple X has got some great root beer. This is from a root beer hater. Anything root beer, and I was like, this is delicious. So let's look at the key returns or key additions that they made. So overall, Ryan brought up a good point earlier about Cignetti to Indiana and how many players he brought from JMU. And I believe this number was double digits last year for him. But UNLV, or coming from UNLV, Odom is bringing 7 players. One of the bigger ones being Manny Powell, a linebacker, had 59 tackles for the Runnin' Rebels last year, 9 TFLs and 3.5 sacks. So that will be nice for them to add. And if I can actually scroll down here, that will pair well with linebacker Kedron Jenkins. Hopefully I said his first name correctly. Who is staying and coming back for Purdue, 83 tackles, second on the team last year, 7 sacks, 13 TFLs, which both led the team. And then we'll get to the biggest one in just a second. But, Ryan, I tried to do my due diligence here. Devin Mockabee is back, which is huge for the team. I believe they brought in another running back by the name of Malachi Thomas from Virginia Tech. And I checked in with our good buddy Kirk, avid Virginia Tech fan, and said, yeah, he's not really worth a whole lot because he hasn't done anything, and he's like his last stop in last year. But I do believe, and I tried hard to read this, and I tried to pull up Purdue's roster. I believe Reggie Love is still there, if I am correct. He shows up on the Purdue site and roster, so he had 372 yards last year compared to Maccabees, or as the NCAA game would say, Maccoby, 687 yards and 4 TDs leading the team last year in rushing.
I think Reggie Love participated in Purdue's Pro Day.
Okay. I was going to say, because that would be 6th year. So that would be a ton. So again, sorry if we're wrong. I tried to touch base with our buddy Dub to figure out what was the deal with Love, but that seemed a bit long for me. I thought last year was a transfer and done when he went to Purdue. So let's roll on the Reggie Love is no longer there then.
Ooh, he only ran a 4.75.
Oh, well, that's not getting drafted.
No, that's not good.
That's undrafted free agency territory.
16 reps on the bench, though. That's pretty good.
Ryan, I just did 25 of 225 today. Like, come on. I'm just kidding. I don't know if I could do one. So
I definitely cannot do one.
So perhaps the biggest thing, right, is quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
The whole world's been around for every team. Well, they brought in 3 of them. Malachi Singleton, Arkansas. Evans, not Evan, Evans. Chuba, I'm going with Chuba because that sounds better than Chuba, from Washington State. And E.J. Colson from UCF. They are all 3 apparently battling for this quarterback spot. However, from what I've read, it sounds like Malachi Singleton has taken majority of the first team reps that have been in open periods that the media can see for spring ball, which I think is probably the best outcome at this point for Arkansas, given his dual threat ability. Didn't get a whole lot of time at Arkansas. Was behind. Why am I blanking on his name?
Taylor Green.
But no, the one before. KJ.
Oh, fudge. KJ Jefferson?
KJ Jefferson went to UCF last year. So he's been behind a few guys, right? And Taylor Green had a nice year last year for Arkansas. So I would expect Singleton to start. We'll have to update this again when we get to our fall previews. But right now, I would expect Malachi Singleton to be the new starting quarterback for the Purdue Boilermakers. And Ryan, can you name the last time that Purdue, or can you name the quarterback, if there was one, that Purdue had a true dual threat quarterback? I can't name one. Not in my lifetime.
Oh, brother.
I mean, Drew Brees and Kyle Orton might have been able to move a little bit, but
Kyle Orton, brother, Kyle Orton could not move at all.
Yeah, he might get 2 yards.
No, he was a
Manning-esque.
He was a milky looking mofo, man. That man could not move at all.
Oh, so yeah, this is huge. Now, I don't know. It opens up the offense a little bit. It seems like something that fits with Odom pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
I believe. Why am I blanking on the gentleman's name that they wrapped up with here? Not Sluka, who transferred out, but the young man who followed him at UNLV had some mobility.
Haj Malik Williams.
There we go. Yes, he had some mobility. So again, having a quarterback that can use his legs just adds stress to the defense, which can only help a Purdue offense that was putrid, doesn't quite cover it last year. Your thoughts on any of the additions or anyone you have of note, Mr. Ryan?
Fun fact. Well, not a fun fact. Can you tell me what Evans Chuba's hometown is?
I'm going to go with Fort Wayne, Indiana.
I was going to say there's a 0% chance you get this right.
Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Montreal.
Nice. Canadian. Hey?
Apparently he is Canadian.
Well, that's fantastic.
Not just Canadian.
Play football.
French Canadian.
Well, good for him.
Allegedly.
Bring some character to the Purdue Boilermaker team.
Bring some poutine as well. No, that'll be fascinating to see. They're all pretty young guys. I think Singleton is a 3rd year. He was at Arkansas for 2 years, and I want to say both the other guys are redshirt freshmen. So there will be some youth, which, I mean, that is, like, if you're looking at how to build your program through the transfer portal, like, this isn't like a quick flip for Purdue, right? Like, there's really not. I mean, I guess you could have made the same argument for Indiana, though, right? Mm-hmm. Like, that didn't feel like a quick flip, and it kind of became a quick flip. But it feels like the best way to kind of go about this is, you know what? Let's just kind of start building something. Let's get some young guys in here and see what happens.
Absolutely.
Good way to start with that with your quarterback position.
Absolutely.
Get a guy who's going to be there a couple years, hopefully.
And you get in there game 1 against Ball State, and he shows some proclivity to not only be able to run the ball, but throw the ball.
Mm-hmm.
It's a promising site to get your 2025 started with.
To be fair, didn't Hudson Card go like 24 of 25 in their first game last year?
That was Indiana State. I think Ball State being in the MAC a little better, and then Southern Illinois. I think you got a really good chance to start 2-0 next year, versus this year you were 1 and done.
That would be good.
Clinton forecasted that. Nobody trusted me. Nobody listened, especially the betting sites.
Yeah,
FanDuel, get your over-unders from Clinton.
that was
Just on
comically
Purdue.
high. That was comically high last year.
Yeah. I'm eager to see what that changes and that line moves to as we go through the season, and start getting that preseason hype a little bit as we get through summer and into the fall preview stuff. And I don't know, I'm curious. I'm really interested to see what this team can turn around. I am safe to say, Ryan, I do not want to go back to West Lafayette for another game this year, though.
No, that's fair.
Not until they get something more spunky turned around here.
You mean you don't want to go watch USC play there next year?
No, because we're going to
Kidding.
see a very similar result to what we saw last year.
Are you sure?
Not quite as much. I don't know. I think Purdue. Wouldn't it be funny if that's the team that Purdue pillages? USC comes there in the most important year that they need of Lincoln Riley, and then see ya.
I mean, it would be pretty funny. It would be pretty funny.
The meltdown in LA
I'm also just a hater, though.
for the fans who care would be massive.
Yes, it would be quite funny.
All right, my man. You got anything else to add on the Boilermakers?
I think
If
that's
not, we can.
That's as
wrap
much
this one
Purdue
up.
as I'm down to talk in the spring.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, guys, as we said, really sorry we couldn't get Dale's connection working tonight. Something with Riverside or something with his laptop. We will hopefully get that figured out. If not, Ryan and I can just lead our Oregon show at some point down the road. It's a loaded team, bringing in tons of talent, so very easy to talk about. We could probably spend an hour talking about the Ducks. But again, thank you for those who tune in. Thank you for those who will watch the show on YouTube. Thank you for those who will listen to us on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, wherever your preferred podcast platform is. You can find us again on Twitter and Instagram, ITPCFB. Find us on the YouTube, ITPCFB. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss a second of the action. And then find us on your preferred podcast platform, as we just mentioned, and leave us a 5-star review there, as it helps us grow the show.
What are we looking at here next schedule-wise?
So we are not going to have a second one this week. Our guy, Matt Flip, for Penn State, Ryan and I had to change. We had some things come up for Thursday. He was unable to do Wednesday and is out of town next week. So Ryan and I think we'll talk off air, but we either try to aim to do maybe the Penn State one next, or if we want to try to push it back a little bit to see if Matt can join us. Again, Penn State's kind of one I think that's going to talk about itself. They're following the Ohio State, Michigan path. That's pretty easy for us to chat about, but I don't think we're having anything else this week, barring a massive change in the plans for Thursday. So we'll be back next Monday. I'll let you guys know on Twitter what we're going to talk about. It'll be Penn State and Maryland, or I believe our next one after that might have been a real banger, Indiana and Northwestern. Actually, I have the sheet up right here. I can tell you exactly who it is. I was right. Indiana Northwestern.
Yeah. And we still have Oregon on the docket. Maybe we'll get Dale figured out.
Yeah, we might do a 3-for-all there and see what we got.
Could be fun. This was fun. It wasn't really fun.
No, it was a bummer. I was really looking forward to talking to Dale.
Yeah, in due time. Well, thank you everyone for joining us once again, even though this was a little bit of an abridged version of what we had planned for the evening. You plan, God laughs, whatever, yada, yada, yada. We'll be back with you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Enjoy the cold weather. Oh, I'm over it. I'm ready for third spring. Real spring this time. All right. Bye-bye. Well, that was an adventure.
Well, we talked longer than I thought we would about